Executive Chairman of Eros International, and Jason Kelly, New York Bureau Chief for Bloomberg News, for a conversation on media, spirituality, and the future. I will now ask Joe Reese to introduce today's program. Joe is a three-time alum of the University of Akron, having earned a BS degree in 1984 in labor economics and an MBA in management and JD in law in 1987. He's the president of Helena Capital. Joe?
Thank you very much. Well, it's always nice when I come to speak and I don't have to prepare, because I didn't. It's also nice because they've limited me to 2 minutes, which is probably good for you. You already know a little bit about the speakers from reading the flyer. Jason's the bureau chief for Bloomberg in New York, and Kishore, the executive chairman of Eros. So what I thought I would do is, rather than rehash what's already there, I thought I'd give you a little interesting tidbit about both of them to keep in the back of your mind as you think about them as they speak. So I had the pleasure of meeting both of them when after a long and painful career on Wall Street, I met Jason in a professional capacity, and also Kishore. In fact, I worked on several of Kishore's transactions. And Jason is a self-described, when you ask Jason, say, what do you do? The stock response is, well, I'm the bureau chief for Bloomberg, and I used to run the conference business, and before that I was the editor of Digital South, covering tech and finance in the Southeast. But what he really says, because he covered Wall Street, he still does cover Wall Street, he said, I have a crazy job. I work with crazy people. That sort of sums up, Jason. Kishore is a little bit more measured, a little bit more zen, hence the topic today, media, spirituality, and the future. Kishore, in addition to being quite the visionary, is a man of firsts. First Indian company to list in London, a publicly registered company, first to list on the New York Stock Exchange. And Eros has over 2,000 Bollywood movies in its library. It is the largest producer, owner, distributor of Indian content globally. But what Kishore is really noted for, in 1981, Kishore's father did what many of us would like to have done, practiced a little bit of tough love. He said, Kishore, I love you, but you're really not helpful here. Why don't you move to the Gulf states? In fact, why don't you move to Israel? Never having been, not speaking a lick of Hebrew, and then why don't you go figure out how to run a business? Kishore does, or did what Kishore generally does. He said, oh, geez, okay, I guess I'll do that. He moves to Israel, learns to speak Hebrew, which I actually didn't know till last year at a charity event. He was honored by the American Jewish Council with the Citizen of Humanity Award. I think partly because as an adult he learned to speak Hebrew. I'm not sure I could ever learn. So in any event, little fun facts on behalf of the University of the Roundtable and everyone here, thank you. I think you're going to be in for a great afternoon. Have a good day.
Joe walks up to the podium, you never quite know what you're going to get. So thank you for that warm introduction. It's really great to be here. It's great to see some old friends, make some new friends. And Kishore, I've spent a little time with him, and I do think we're in for a treat. The topic that we're here to discuss briefly, and then we'll open it up to questions from you guys, is, and we debated this a little bit, about what we really wanted to focus on, and we ended up with media, spirituality, and the future. So I want to touch briefly on those. Kishore, Joe mentioned this kind of seminal moment, I think, in your career, back in 1981 when you moved to Israel. But I want to ask you, from a businessman's perspective, what was the key moment in your career? What do you look back on and say, this was the moment where I knew that this is what I wanted to do, or that this is what my company was going to be?
I think if you know that, you will know everything. The main thing I think in life is that what you want to achieve in life, you never know that. You always plan, you always hope, and you always wish. You're always making plans that I'm hoping this and I'm wishing this. But the key thing is, in spirituality, you have not to hope and not to wish. You have to just be and keep on doing it, and everything will happen your way. So the way it works is that when in 1981, my dad started the business in 77, And in '77, I used to look at these Hollywood movies, and I told my dad that one day my company also in India will be the largest studio of India, and we will produce movies and distribute and have the offices worldwide. And with that desired heart in '81, I went to Israel. And why Israel is that? Because those buyers from the different countries used to come to India and buy Bollywood movies, and we used to subtitle them into their local languages. And in Israel at that time, there was West Bank and every Gaza was together, and they used to subtitle, and they used to buy the movies for $4,000 and make $100,000. So the ROI was quite high, and thus I didn't have the money, so I took $10,000 and landed up in Israel. And to my utmost disappointment, that when I went and took my movies to the exhibitors, they didn't speak English. So either I had to pack bags and go back to India, or to learn the language. So I learned the language in 3 months, and I've made my first $1 million in Israel. So Indian entrepreneur trained by the Jews, that's the best, that's the result you've got.
And so, at what point, so you make the first million, it's obviously an interesting pivot. What happens in the media landscape that shows you where to go next? Because one interesting note in your bio, which many people probably read, is the online distribution, the online piece of your business. When did you see that shift? Just staying on the media thing for a second.
Yeah. See, what happened during the 80s and 90s, I used to come to Los Angeles, New York, and then I was in contact with the studio heads running these big corporations whether from Time Warner to Fox and others. And I used to learn quite a lot from them. And then I realized that there's no one in India trying to replicate the model. So what I did, learn from the big companies' mistakes listed on the New York and Hollywood, and tried and implement that model. But what I also tried to do is that we were on holiday in somewhere in Far East. And then 3 years ago, we decided that how if Disney and Warner actually have licensed their library to Netflix, and Netflix was a DVD company, whereby sending out DVDs, and Red Hastings was the visionary whereby said, okay, this is what you'll start. And then there was Spotify, and then there was iTunes, different models put together. And we decided, why don't we combine all the models, the Netflix model and the iTunes model and the Spotify model together, because we own the IP, and I don't have to go to anyone and acquire those rights. And we were able to put that platform together, and that's the only platform in the world actually, which, if you have seen in the US, the 5 platforms combined into one for Bollywood movies available worldwide. And that was my daughter's idea, saying that, okay, we have to move digital, and you have to keep on. So I think how the planning, as I'm saying, as you said, in the universities when you do MBAs, you are doing different courses. You learn quite a lot. But if you pick up the top, let's assume in the last 100 years, the top 100 entrepreneurs which have made it, and if you ask them one question, what made them? They said that I got the intuition, I got something, correct? So that means what? It is 1%, this world is 1% physical, 99% is outside. And you have to tap into that world for this to achieve anything physically in this world. So it's a combination of that intellect world and the physical world, combine it and live in this world. And if you can then tap into that, everything is available to you. The knowledge is available to you, the calibration level is available to you. And that's where I think I get it from, is I learn quite a lot from everyone, because you have to learn every day. You can learn from even the person who is even cleaning your floor, or even my housemate, or a person who has been very successful. So what's the definition of success? Success, people today are defining either in money or power, but that's not actually the success.
So let's keep going on that, because I think, as was alluded to even in the invocation, multiple religions, multiple ways to pursue that, multiple manifestations of some of the ideas you're talking about. I want to understand, and I want the audience to understand, how you put that into practice. What does that look like for you on a daily basis, being able to tap into that?
Perfect. So I think all the religions you take, the goal is one. I think all the religion is man-made. God didn't come on this earth and make different religions, whether it's Hinduism, Buddhism, Christian, Judaism, every religion. But the goal is the same. So what is the goal? See, you have a mind and body, right? So the mind is getting about 60,000 thoughts a day, and you're acting on 500, and the balance is getting 5. So compare your mind as like today, let's do mobile device. And that mobile device, call it, and then every minute you're opening a different app, correct, on your mobile device. So let's assume I get married, I have a wife, it's a wife app. It's a children app.
Is there an app for that?
So just imagine.
Kids to that.
So just imagine. Okay, so let's assume you're taking a walk, you're running, you're a good runner, so you go into the park and you find a puppy there. And then you love that puppy. And then you pick it up. And then you want to take it home. Until you meet that puppy and you pick it up, you love him, is a different form. But as soon as you say, I own this puppy now, suddenly what happens? You want that puppy to wag his tail and to lick your feet or to do everything, and the time he doesn't do that, you get disappointed, right? So exactly, so what is happening in the mind is opening about thousands and thousands of apps. So compare your mind as a mobile phone. You're opening every app at a different time. And then what is happening with that opening of that app? You're not closing that app properly. And then you always say, then you get diseases, you get, you're not happy, you're not, something is missing in your life, and then you want to go everywhere outside looking, for that, because you're not happy. So I reckon that there are two things. So if you had your mobile phone and if it hangs up, what you will do? You will want to restart it, and reset button, number one. And number two, all the apps you've opened, you'll close it. Then the mobile phone will function properly. Exactly your life, and exactly whether your career, whether your business, whether your relationships. Now, so just imagine, every relationship, every business deal, anything you do in life is an app. Now that app opens, whether it's a relationship with your wife, your children, your business partners, your business deal, okay, all those apps opened. And then your phone is hanging. So two things you can do. You want to restart the phone. How do you restart the current mind? That means you have to restart your current mind. What is blocking mind from restarting? Only two things. One is the thoughts. Because constantly we are chasing the thoughts. And when we are chasing the thoughts, why meditation? Even the scientists today, the institutions from the Cleveland Clinic, I was speaking to you now, that the meditation gives you so much. What is meditation? Meditation just stops your thought. Once you stop your thought and you look at blank, the energy, you see, we are all made from energy, correct? What is God? God is energy. And once you go blank, there's the reset button for your mind app. And then second, try and have closure on every emotional relationship. And once you close your app, your phone will work properly and your mind will work properly. You will have no problems in life. And whatever you plan, it will happen. Because this is the universe. When you send out that energy in the universe, whether you want anything, whether money, relationships, or power, anything, the universe will give it back to you. That has the power to give it back to you.
When we were talking earlier in the week, you were giving me this metaphor, and I guess as a writer, I only can understand things in metaphors. And you were talking about this notion of like black balls and white balls, and sort of what you throw into the world and how it comes back to you. And I was hoping you would share that because it resonated with me.
Yeah. So what is an action? As science say, every action is a reaction. So the action is your thought. The thought actually is your karma. So when you have thought, and what is the karma, and what does the karma means, is your intention. Your intentions matter the most. Now how you have delivered it. So the soul is made out of 7 attributes. The body is made out of 5 elements, as we all know. Earth, water, and the body is more 70% water. So the same thing, soul is made out of 7 attributes, which is love, happiness, harmony, wisdom, purity, and all those things. So that's all proactive. So when the person sends out a thought, there are 2 types of thought which can come out of you. One is being proactive, or being reactive. What is reactive? Which is opposite of these 7 attributes which soul is made out of. So that is anger, ego, judgment, guilt, everything. So imagine your reactive thoughts like a black ball. Imagine your proactive thoughts is like a white ball. You are throwing white balls and black balls. And the balls which you are thrown, it gets rebounded at 10 times the speed you have thrown it. So that means it's all coming back to you. So what happens? And that's what we call it luck. So what happens in our life when we have thrown these balls, whatever, at any time of our life, and in the morning when we get up, if everything is going our way, which is the white balls coming our way, we take the credit for it, say that, oh, I'm so great, I've done it. And when the black balls comes your way and when the life is miserable, you say, oh God, why you're giving me this? I don't deserve this, right? So credit you take, and whatever the minus things comes into your life, you blame it on God. God is not here to punish anyone, neither is God. God will love unconditionally everyone. It is universal law. Whatever you throw, it will come back to you. So try and throw as many as white balls. So white balls is, with love, harmony, no judgment, no ego, and all those things. And anything opposite of that is black balls.
All right, so we're all going to walk out of here throwing white balls at each other, which is good advice. I do want to understand in your business dealings, you deal with people all over the world. Joe is someone we've both done business with, and he is a good guy. He comes from he alluded to the craziness of Wall Street. Not always good guys. Not every person comes with good intentions. How do you act as a well-intentioned person throwing white balls in a world full of black ball chuckers?
Yeah, you see,
it's a very sophisticated question.
Very good question. I see in my dictionary, actually, if you look at every human being on this earth, there is something good or something bad. There is maybe something bad in me, and there's something good in me. Now, what you have to choose, because you have to only throw white balls. So you have to look in good in everyone you meet, because if you look at the good in everyone when you meet, that is the quality you will get back. Because if 30 years ago I told you that, oh, you could be anywhere in any part of the world and you can speak to anyone because there was no mobile phones, people must have laughed. I said, oh, it doesn't, So same thing, maybe in 50 years' time, you could send, there's telepathy. You could sometimes, you always say, oh, I was just thinking about you, somebody rings, because that travels more than the speed of the light, the telepathy. So that's the energy. So if you're walking into a meeting or a business deal or anything, and if you're going to say that I'm not going to do good, or I'm going to be good in this meeting, you try it, and that's what will happen. But if you say this person is not good, that means what will happen? That part is going to come back to you. And if you say, even though I've heard that thing about you, but this person is going to be good to me, that means his white balls will come to me.
So I want to ask you one more question, but before I do that, in a minute I'm going to turn to the audience. I have this trusty iPad here. You can use the app that Steve described, and it will show up right here. There's also cards on your table that you can fill out questions on, and just raise your hand and someone will pick it up. And these, as I said, those questions will come to me, and I will ask them to Kishore. So I want to ask you one more question about the media business, which is, what's the thing that we're not anticipating? As you look around, part of your job, especially as the chairman, is to look around the corner. What's next in media that maybe we're not seeing?
See, I think the next, in the 4G is already here, and you must have seen the reports last week also of 5G. Now, with 5G, I think the way it's going to affect us is 100 times more the 4G, and especially AT&T and Verizon is launching that in the 2017. It's going to affect the health sector, robotics, the surgical operations, or the movies, or everything. It's basically the second screen, we call it. The mobile is going to be your primary screen. And it's the content, the way the content is getting consumed. You have 3 billion internet users, how it goes to the 8 billion internet users. And maybe we discover life outside of this earth also. I think we are going to be full of surprises. The average life expectancy is going to rise because, of all the different factors we are seeing. So